Place which is completely irrational to stop in. We stopped on Zion and Aleph right before Kahada Surika, called the Surkia, which is 3, 6, 7 lines from the bottom. Oh, Mr. Zuger, we waited for you.
Sorry.
7 lines on the bottom on Daf Zion and Aleph. Okay, that's what we got up to, and again, as I say, there was a totally irrational place to stop. So let's go back a line to Vafilu Yizbor, which is the 2 lines on top of that. Vafilu Yizbor Rabbi Lazar. Okay, everybody see that? 9 lines at the bottom of Zion Ralph. Now we had a machlokas this day, Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yochanan. Concerning when you find crops or fruit in the hands of a goy in Eretz Yisrael, you have to take trumas and maises of it bevadai or b'demai. Rabbi Yochanan said Rabbi Yochanan said that it's both, it's demai, and Rabbi Lezer says that it's vadai. Okay. In other words, if you buy it from a Jew, it's always demai because my sister are taken off. If you buy it from a guy, so then we had a machlokas. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it was still demai because maybe this guy bought it from a Jew who had taken off trumas and maasros. According to Rabbi Lezer, it's considered to be vadai. We assume that it is chayv and trumas and maasros because it grew in Eretz Yisrael. However, it might have already. We don't assume that any trumas and maasros were taken off. And therefore now is it chayev? It's chayev b'vadai. Okay, so starting again from there. Vafilu yizbar Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yochanan. May Rabbi Lezer holds like Rabbi Yochanan. The Rav Eretz Yisrael knows sooner b'yad Yisrael. That most of Eretz Yisrael is given over to the Jews. So if that's the case, we should assume that this came from Jewish lands and therefore it's the Mai. In other words, it's some Maisers were taken off. Unless Rabbi Lezer chash l'miut. Maybe Rabbi Lezer is afraid of the miut that some of the land, some of the stuff belongs to Goyim. And that's of which grows in Goyim's area, according to the Shita, which the Gemara is espousing here, is chayiv and trumas and maasros. But the Goyim don't take off trumas and maasros, so maybe that's Rabbi Lezer, he's choshesh l'miut, and that's why he requires to take trumas and maasros off the stop. It should be, but the Gemara doesn't bring it in here. Here, Meir is chayish l'miut and not Rabbana, but it's not brought down here for some reason. So says Gemara, no, we can't accept that understanding Rabbi Lezer. If Rabbi Lezer held that most of Eretz Yisrael is given over to Jews, then he would assume that everything is Demai and there is no Vadai. Why is that? Surika. Because then it would be analogous to a certain caravan. Shemistapekas yom echad min ha'isur. That it becomes that one day, a year, it has something prohibited. One day a year it has something prohibited, which that caravan supplies or stocks or whatever the case may be. Nasa osa yom hochach l'kol yomim. That day becomes chocha, becomes a proof to every other day afterwards. So if that's the case, that we see from this that it's. Oh, wait a second. This is a raya, I think. Yeah, I'm doing it wrong. Sorry. Let me do that again. Vafilus Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yochanan. Even Rabbi Lezer learns like Rabbi Yochanan that the Rov Eretz Yisrael is Nesuda B'yad Yisrael, that most of Eretz Yisrael is given over to Jews. Rabbi Lezer chash l'miut. Rabbi Lezer is chash l'miut. But he says that the one crop which grew in a goyish field, maybe that's the crop you're getting. And since that's the crop you're getting, so therefore you have to take off trumas and maasros as vadai on it. Kadosu Kusurkia, just like a caravan, that one day a year it takes not forbidden supplies. That day, because it casts aspersions on all the other days of the year. So therefore, you always have to assume Isser. So too here, you always have to assume Isser. Rove works midoraisa. It doesn't work midrabanan. Now, by the Sukiya, the stipler's son here goes into a little bit of kavua in order to explain why we're chayshish the rest of the year, right? Because the Gzer Rabbanan is by Demai, not necessarily by the caravan, which is carrying forbidden meat or something like that. But for our purposes, let's not get into that. Let's just assume that in both cases, there's Nisa Rabbanan here. And the 1 day year would have led Chazal by the Surkiya to Asr all the days, as a Gzerut. So here leads Chazal to Asr all the days. Not as Demai, mind you, as Vadai, according to Rabbi Lezer. According to Rabbi Lezer, we assume the other days are not just Demai, because if it's Demai, there are all sorts of kulas. No, if you buy stuff from a guy, because maybe he got it from a guy, or even a goyish farmer who didn't take off Trumas Meisers, you have to assume that it's not tithed at all. So not only do you have to take off Meiser, like you take off from Demai, but you also have to take off Truma as well. Okay? That's between Vadai and Demai, where they have to take off Truma. Says more Rabbi Yossi boy. Rabbi Yossi asks if that's the case. Me'ato, if you're quoting Rabbi Lezer, but you choshesh lemute. Bo ger shaboli's gayer, imakabli no so. If a ger comes to be makaber, a convert comes to convert, and we're not going to accept it because it's a case where ani omer me amon u'moavu, maybe it's from Ammon or Moav. So nasa also ger achiach l'kol gerim. Do I say in that case, well, if there's one ger somewhere in the world who's from Ammon or Moav and it's forbidden, does that make him all usher? Do we ever make such gezeres? Of course not, right? We accept all gerim. This really boils down to your question. If you think about it, when I have such an absolute rove, am I cheshish l'miyut? Do I assume that just because one guy might come from Ammon or Moav, so too other people are going to come from Ammon or Moav? Of course not, says Gemara.
You always say this Bible about Lumos
after Sancheiriv. But he's saying about hypothetically. Hypothetically, there could be one guy from Ammon or Moav, right? So therefore, let's answer all game because of the Ammon or Moav. Right? That's what you say. It's hypothetical. Right? It's not germane. You're really trying to pin me down as where the Bible is arguing Yerushalmi.
In essence, really, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not. The Yerushalmi is not saying that. Yerushalmi also agrees that we are somech on his Baal almost. It's asking why are we somech on that? Like Rabbi Lezer, let's not rely on that. Let's have the difficulty that we have to be choshesh l'miut. Okay? That's his question. So it says more elakini or elakini, rather this is the way it is. Rabbi Lezer savar meimar. Rabbi Lezer holds really Rov Eretz Yisrael Musuna B'Yadakum. It's not the holds a minority is in hands of Goyim, but rather he holds a majority is in the hands of Goyim. And therefore he requires you to take Trumas and Meisos of stuff you buy from a Goy as Vadai, not just as Mai, because the odds are that it's not Meiser. Says Rabbi Yochanan Savar Meimar, Rabbi Yochanan who argues holds Rov Eretz Yisrael Musuna B'Yadakum. That most land in Israel is in the hands of Jews, and they're going to take off Trumas and Meisers. So therefore, even stuff you buy from a goy is only D'mai, not Vadai. Vod minato. And I can prove this also from the following case. That the Machlokas is whether Rov Eretz Yisrael is Jewish or non-Jewish.
Well, aren't they both right, depending on what time, what era it was in history?
Yes, but they were contemporaries, and they lived in the same location.
It just seems like basically the question is it machlokas and Metzius?
Absolutely.
It's very strange.
My feeling, without trying to burst too many bubbles, only like 300 or 400, is that this business which we were taught in yeshiva that they're never machlokes and Metzius.
Right.
Not true. Yeah, and certainly if we were taught in Bavli, I don't know if it applies to Yerushalmi. It's entirely possible there are machlokes and Metzius. They didn't necessarily have the wherewithal to make all these surveys and find out. Certainly here, you see that they didn't have the capacity. This is Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Eliezer. They were under Roman jurisdiction. What did they know? It was very hard. The whole writing of the Yerushalmi was very difficult because they're under Roman oppression. They went out and they checked out exactly what the facts are. They had no machlokas b'mitzias. That's what I would say. Okay, it was not easy all the time to go out and gauge what the mitzias was. Okay, says the Gemara. Vod Mi'ado, again from this following case. The Rabbi Zir Shalach Shal Rabbi Lezer Alexandra Ditstoika. Right? He sent this, Rabbi Zir sent the Shaila to Rabbi Alexandria, interesting name, from Tzedoka. Ilay Naklavasan, those dates, Tahacha, which we find Eretz Yisrael, Matum Risharim Bo, how do you reckon them? Rov Minakum, do they come mostly from Goyim, or Rov Yisrael mostly from Jews? He said, we don't know. We don't have the capacity to reckon this issue. So Taka, they didn't have the tools, the capacity to figure it out. Masnisa Messiah, there's a Bryce which is right for this one, for Rabbi Eliezer, and a Bryce Masnisa Messiah, then a Bryce is right for Rabbi Yochanan. Masnisa Messiah, Rabbi Eliezer, there's a Bryce which was right for Rabbi Eliezer, which says, Hatagar b'chom makom demai. A merchant, no matter where you buy from him, it's demai. Amos, I was that Trubas Manchero Mikanso Misro. Well, that's only if you take if a place where you know that the majority of the suppliers, the tagar is a middleman, right? He's your personal merchant, a retailer, let's call him. But that where you know, let's call him meet the middleman because that's what he is. That's when you take again. Amos, I want the true is manchero mechansel misro. When most of the stuff comes from Jews, so I assume that it's demai at worst because it comes from Jewish property. But if you bought it from a goy, then in other words, not you bought it from the goy. The tagar buys it from a goy. Your middleman buys from a goy. In that case, for sure, you have to take a trumas and maitzos, you see, because that we hold is vadai. So that's a riot, Rabbi Eliezer. That's saying that we have the concept that the rove that depends on who the rove is, and normally we say that rove of Eretz Yisrael is goyim. And it's just a special case where Rov Mechansem Yisrael, that he has somebody who gets his fruit from a Jew. Masnisa Messiah, Rabbi Yochanan, there's no Bryce, which is right for Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Nechemia, we learned the Bryce. Rabbi Nechemia says, "Pam echod akul v'echod Yisrael, echod kuti v'echod amoret." Whether you have a goy, a Jew, a Samaritan, or an amoret. Pam shlokech pam achas min akum. Sometimes you buy one time, from a goy, pam achas Yisrael, and sometimes one time from Yisrael, demai. In both cases, it's demai. In other words, regardless of whether you're buying from the goy, from the Yisrael, from the kuti, from the Amoretz, since most of the crops grown in Eretz Yisrael are grown under Jewish auspices, there's always a healthy assumption that it is possibly meiser, and therefore in all of the cases, no matter who you get it from, it's always D'mai and never Vadai. Everybody following so far? It's easy, come on, right? But Rabbi Chia bar had a boy Kumirai Mana. Mimi loka chayish hazeh. Now, it's an interesting lashon. What he means is, hey, let's ask the merchant, where did he buy the stuff? Did he buy it from a Jew or buy it from a goy? So, Baal Batish Kasha, let's ask him.
Can you trust the merchant?
So says the Gemara, no mar mi Yisrael. If he tells us it's from a Jew, to my Minakum, he tells us from a goy, Vadai. So says the Gemara, the pot there, Shaya Akum, Shaya Tagar Akum. We're talking about a case where the merchant himself was a goy. Va'akum v'Yisrael matil in front of Demai. And he has a goy and Jews who are putting stuff in front of him. Not that because he's a goy he's not believed. He doesn't pay attention. He has two suppliers, Jews and goyim. So therefore he doesn't know where he's getting his stuff. That's why he can't answer our question. Hey, so Rabbi says, Kashav Masnisa Messiah Lu Rabbi Yochanan. I've arrived from Bryce like Rabbi Yochanan. The Tani Yom Rabbi Yudon, we learn Rabbi Yudon said, L'uskuru Mune Badon v'Chotzer Geva, the pomegranates of Badon, and the harvest of Geva was only mentioned El Shem Yisasrim Vadai B'Chom Mokom. Only to tell us that they're Vadai no matter where you go. They're always Vadai. Manokay, what are you talking about? Im Lokech Yisrael. You're talking about we buy for a Jew. But it's in Vadai. We say it's Vadai. Of course, it's only D'mai. Jews take off Trumas L'maisos. He's talking about when you're buying from a guy and says these specific things. They must have not been grown by Jews. That's why there's no suspicion that Jews took Trumas U'Maisus off of it. Or Shakor, anything else you buy from a guy, sounds like it's only Demai, which is right to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yitzchak said, no, Bivadai on a Kayomin. This story did not arrive for Rabbi Yochanan. This story about Vadai. This story about where you bought Uvlokeach Misroel on a Kayomin. It's even going to Rabbi Lezer. And even if you bought it from a Jew. Hi, if you bought from a Jew, it should be always Demai, it should never be Vadai. How could it be Demai? Says more a very interesting question. Very interesting concept. Tipoter, understand it. Shagrinimus Gadol. Agrinimus obviously is something about to do with agronomics, right? With agriculture. But he was a big farmer. V'dachu kalav. Lios mocher b'zo, and the government is pressing him to sell for cheap. The Tiru lo, and the Chazal allowed him Lios mocher tevolim to sell absolute tevel vadai, because the profit margins were squeezed to the max anyway, right? So therefore they wanted to sell tevel vadai, and the buyer has to suspect for himself that perhaps he's buying vadai. So we're talking about a case lemaisa, according to Rabbi Lazar, where we know even though he bought it from a Jew, it's vadai. We're not talking about a case with Demai, but a case for him, but he bought it from a Jew, it's vadai. Okay, so the bottom line is we never resolved the machlokas. Of course, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar have a machlokas. What do I assume? Do I assume most of Eretz Yisrael is bought from Goyim, in which case it's vadai, or most of Eretz Yisrael is from Jews, in which case it's only Demai, and the machlokas stands.
What was the question? Why they were squeezing the profit margin, so it was Teva?
What?
Why was it Teva?
This is a case where the government was forcing a large landowner to sell his stuff for cheap. So in order to preserve some profit margin, Chazal allowed him to sell tevel. He didn't have to take off Meiser at all. Okay? Ezu Tagar. What is a merchant? That we can assume he's a merchant and he's not selling his own stuff, he's selling from others. And according to Rabbi Yochanan, we assume that it's only Demai, not Vadai. Says Marakosha, hey, anybody who brought crops, the Shanan brought again, Vishilosh. In other words, 3 times he's engaged in business dealing. Rabbi Yonah asked the kind of question, this is a Rabbi Yirmiyah type question. Hey, Vishlosha Masuim Avad Kachas. If he brought 3 loads in one shot, he had a big truck and he brought 3 loads in one. So, ain't it Tagar? What's halacha? So, is it not a Tagar? So it sounds like, I'm not sure, it might be a statement. I see the disciple's son learns in a statement. Boy, even though it says boy in the Yerushalmi doesn't necessarily imply a statement. Question might imply a statement. Here the statement is, hey, Vishosh Masun Kechos, if he brings all 3 loads at once, Ainz the Tagar is not considered to be a merchant. Zechar Zai, if he brings it one after the other, Harei the Tagar is considered to be a merchant. Right? Rabbi Yonah Boil Mafreya Nasa Tagar, from when does he become a merchant? Retroactively? From the first shipment? Or Migana Lab, or from here on in? Mana Folk Beinei, and what's the difference? Difference is as follows. Ba Laskin. An interesting case. He wants to take off. Now, if you want to take off Trumas U'Maisrus from the earlier shipments on the present shipment. So, in Tamer Mikano Lahaba, if you're going to say it becomes a, you want to take off from the earlier shipments on your Vadai, which is at home. In Tamer Mikano Lahaba, if you're going to say it only becomes a merchant. After the 3rd time, Meiser Mizal say, you can take the stuff which a merchant brought in his first 2 times and use it to Meiser stuff at home because it's Vadai. However, if it's a case where we say that it's Lemafreya, that he came merchant retroactive from the first shipment he brought to town, so then I have to assume that perhaps all of them are Demai and none of them are Vadai. Raimona asks, Huvno Paulo, he brought a load to sell, and his worker brought a load to sell, and his son brought a load to sell, and his worker brought a load to sell. To make them all big merchants all at once. Then the Gemara doesn't resolve it. Rabbi Yonah asks, Habasfina haba miromi, a boat which comes from Rome. Kama minim yeshba, has many different types of merchandise in it. Roe osa kulo kilu achas, do you see it as if it's one and it's only one coming? Or do you see it as many different types of temperatures as many different types of merchandise as three comings, and the Gemara doesn't resolve it either. Haperos. Now says the Gemara, a new thing. Fruit, which we're not sure if it's true, the Trumas of Mice is taken off, if it's Mai, etc. Lo you never fall by them. Lo achar reach, not their smell. Lo achar maran, or after their what? Appearance, right? Lo achar tam, nor after their taste. Lo achar dami, nor after their value. El achar rov, you go after the majority. If the majority of that fruit comes from Chutz La'aretz, it's not chayiv in Demai. If the majority of that fruit comes from Eretz Yisrael, then it's chayiv in Demai, and none of the other factors play a role. Rabbi Yaakov Baracha, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Neder Rabbi Yochanan, Ima yain, if it was wine, go yain chodesh v'yain yoshan, such as old wine and new wine, where there's a discernible taste difference. In that case, in that case, we can distinguish and say, sweet wine comes from outside Eretz Yisrael, and new wine, the new wine which is less sweet comes from inside Eretz Yisrael. In other words, we can create dichotomies because there's a recognizable difference between the commodities. Okay, says and you go have even after time after the taste. All right, Ramona said, as Lisa case, I went to Caesarea, and I saw them eating pressed figs without taking pressed dates, without taking trumas u'maisros. Why? Because they must have known that this comes from Chutz La'aretz. Shalis l'Rabbi Yitzchak Rabbi Eliezer. I asked Rabbi Yitzchak Rabbi Eliezer to confirm this. So Amalei said yes. Kach nag zuga shuri. There was a couple of rabbis who were a matir this case. They said this zuga, this couple of shuri of rabbanim who were matir, and they said that we can assume that all dveila in this town comes from Chutz La'aretz. All press dates come from Chutz La'aretz. Rabbi Yitzchak Rabbi Eliezer b'shem zuga, the case are never the name of this parent case. Sorry, said kol dechame maya shuri, anything. Anything which is on the seashore, so they don't make pressed figs there, and therefore all pressed figs there are not chayiv in Demai. Some say till the pillar of salt. I don't think it's Lot's wife. Another pillar of salt. Some say amoras limon until the cave of limon. Rabbi Abba, it's all considered to be part and parcel of no. It's part of Eretz Yisrael, but there you can assume that I think it's Caesarea, right? You can assume that these fruits come from Chutz La'aretz and not chayiv in Demai. Okay. Rabbi Abba. Rabbi Abba said, "Amrei milei and Rabbanon." It doesn't say. It says Mari. Mari is like Amrei. Let me tell over the words of the rabbis. Amrei, they said, "Kol minim asurim b'keisarim." All types of fruit are also keisarim because we're afraid that they're going to Eretz Yisrael. Hachitim v'apas, wheat and bread, v'yayin, wine, v'ashem and oil, v'atmorim, dates, hores, rice, kamon, kimmel. That's all the stuff in the Mishnah. Lo parshin and dveila. Why does it mention dveila here? Dveila should mention one substance which is also. Begin the Tanisa must be some mentioned because it's mutter. Okay, pressed dates never come from Eretz Yisrael, so therefore if you find them, then from Chutz La'aretz, and you're allowed to derive, you're allowed to eat them.
The dates come from Eretz Yisrael, they just don't press them.
What?
The dates come from.
Don't press them into a right. Don't press them into a mold. Okay. and this is all still part of the raya. We have a Bryce who tells us Orez v'kamunu parsha soon rice and kimmel and whatever parsha noon have a sharioi. These substances. These substances which are enumerated in our Mishnah as having as being especially chayev in Demai, it should have listed also the Dvela. Why does it mention the Devela must be have a shiur that was left out intentionally because Devela comes from Chutz La'aretz and therefore it's not Chayiv B'Dmai. Now, Harei Elu B'Shviyas Heter B'Shar Shnei Shavua D'mai is a very interesting halacha. If you have any this crop during Shemitah, it's permissible. Now, this is unintelligible in and of itself. For the beer here, from the Stipler, some points out a very interesting thing. He says that case Caesarea was conquered by those who left Egypt, but not by those who left Bavel. They didn't take it over. This leads to a certain kula and a certain chumrah. A certain kula, actually. The halacha is, he brings down here, that, what? Right, so it's not Kedusha Kitcha Asilov, it's clearly not Kedusha Daraisa. But he brings down here that as a result, Chachamim said that Meiser and Shemitah apply in these places only to Jewish fields but not to non-Jewish fields. Before we said that our Gemara holds that even by non-Jewish fields in Eretz Yisrael, Trumas and Meiser apply. But that's only in places where the Oli Bavel, the Babylonian exiles, came back and restored their ownership to the land. Here it didn't happen. And therefore here if you find a case where it's in the hands of a Jew, there goes there nonetheless. It's chayiv. It's in the hands of the goy, it's exempt. Okay, is that clear? Again, it says it was only conquered by those who left Egypt, not by those who left Bavel. So it says the Gemara, Harei Elu Shviyas Heter, in all these places, during Shemitah it's mutter. B'shar Shnei Shavua, but during the rest of the week, instead of 6 years, it's a Mai. In other words, Chachamim made a 2-track zera here. Right. They're more machmir by what? By D'mai. Which is a very interesting thing. They're more machmir by D'mai, I guess, because it's more prevalent. It's 6 out of 7 years, as opposed to Shemitah, which is less prevalent. But yes, you have here a paradox. So you'd be chayiv at D'mai, but exempt for Shemitah. Correct? Correct.
Shemitah is in Yerushalmi.
Not in places where it's only conquered by only Mitzrayim.
So it's both Yerushalmi.
Right, they're both Mitzrayim. Okay. Yeah, they're both Mitzrayim. Okay. Says the Gemara, Arayil b'shviyas heter. It says here that in Shemitah it's mutter. You b'shviyas, when in Shviyas? Says the Gemara that Shviyas Yisrael Meshamtim Ba'akum Potter. Shviyas, Jews are chayvin. Goyim are exempt from Shemitah. Yisrael Ba'akum Rabim Alakutim. There are more Jews plus Goyim than Samaritans. So therefore, B'shar Shnei Shavua, by the other 6 years, Demai Diudoi. There's Demai in the Jewish fields. Yisrael Metakin, which the Yisrael are Mesakin. Va'akum Peturim, and the Goyis are exempt. Yisrael Va'akum, in that case, Yisrael V'Kutim, the Jews, and the Kutim, Rabim. There's a different gersa, by the way, in here. Yisrael V'Kutim, Rabim Al Akum. Now, let me explain exactly what that means. We're talking here about, again, stuff which might Ole Mitzrayim sanctified, those who came out of Egypt, not those who came out of Babel. So says the Gemara, by all of the days of the week, we assume that the Mai, if it's Jewish, the Jews are being masakin it. If it's Goyim, since it's only area which kind of Ole Mitzrayim, not only Bavel, it's exempt altogether from Trumas Maisus. Only from Trumas Maisus. Only the only Bavel stuff is Chayiv and Trumas Maisus. Therefore, we say in this case, there's a majority in this community of Yisrael plus Akum. Yisrael plus Akum. I'm still not explaining it well. What?
It doesn't make sense.
No. Because it's stuff which only Mitzrayim conquered. So, only Mitzrayim. So there is a Chiyuv Demai because of Yisrael. Right. There's a Chiyuv Demai because of Yisrael. And there's a Chiyuv Demai because of the Kutim. There's no Chiyuv Demai because of the Goyim. So the Jews plus the Kutim generate a Chiyuv Demai and overcome the Kutim. Overcome the Goyim. Again. Yisrael.
Why for Kusi the Chiyuv Demai?
Yeah, because this is assuming by the
Isn't there a Kedusha of the Aretz?
yeah, it's Gary Amos.
There's a Kedusha of the Aretz, regardless of who?
Yeah, okay, let me do it again, these past two lines. I have down pat. I was just kind of confused. Let me reorient you and me. Shvi'is, Yisrael Mishamti Vakum Potter. Divide the citizenry into three. Jews, Goyim, and Samaritans. Okay? So Shemitah, the Jews are going to make sure to keep Shemitah. They're not going to do anything bad. The Goyim are exempt from Shemitah. Who are the ones who are chayiv Shemitah but are going to mess up? Samaritans. What's the majority? Yisrael are going to keep Shemitah properly if they keep it. And Goyim, that's 2/3. So 2/3 of the people are, so to speak, exempted. Not really exempted, but are exempt or fulfilling the obligation of Shemitah. You don't have to worry about Shemitah fruits. Once of the people are not keeping it properly, that's the Kutim, you don't have to be concerned. Now the opposite, by the other 6 years. What's the status of Yisrael? Chayiv Demai, right? What's the status of a Kuti? Chayiv Demai. Because they're only there bona fide ger. What's the status of an Akum since it's only Mitzrayim and not only Bavel? Since it's only Mitzrayim and not only Bavel. It would be only Bavel, we'd say it's what? Tzvarai. But since it's only Mitzrayim territory, so therefore, if it's in the hands of a Goy, then it's exempt altogether. Right? So what's the majority here? Demai. That's why you give Demai. Okay? Works out. Again, we look at 2/3 of the parameters. Okay, let's see that again. And this only goes only Mitzrayim territory. You just made that eminently clear, right? Shvi'is, Yisrael, Mashanti, and Jerusalem to keep Shemitah. Vakum, Potter, and the Goyim are exempt from Potter. Yisrael, Vakum, Rabbi, and Kuti, and there are more Jews plus Goyim equals, you don't have to worry about Shemitah. B'shar Shnei in the rest of the years of the cycle, Demai, Yudoi, it's Demai. Why? Because Yudoi, that which goes in the Jewish plot, Yisrael, Masaknin, but they might forget, right? They might be from the Miut. Va'akum Turim, Goyim are exempt. However, Yisrael v'Kutiyim Rabim ala Akum, and there the gears is reversed by the Groth. Right. That's right. Right. Okay. Period. Arechon. How far does Caesarea reach? Pundika Damuda. Pundika Retifta. These places. Ad Kfar Saba. Up to Kfar Saba. I don't know if it's today's first time. It might be. It's near Caesarea. Everything is near right there. Yes. Might well be. Absolutely. But here, only Mitzrayim did get the Plishim sometime or another conquered all of the land of Israel. Not all at once. But they had all a bunch, they spread their tentacles all over the place. Okay. Vitzidon.
So that means they're saying that this territory was conquered only by Ole Mitzrayim.
And not by Ole Bavel.
Sab was conquered by Ole Mitzrayim, not by Ole Bavel.
That's right. The Ole Bavel did very little. They actually had very little penetration. Later on, Herod and his house has the Hashmonoim conquered it, but by then, it was too late. It wasn't conquered by the Ole Bavel. Okay. Tziron is a certain type of vegetable. Even in Caesarea, I assume it comes from Eretz Yisrael, from Eretz Yisrael proper, and therefore it's chayiv. Kulkasin and korn b'kisarin. Also the kulkasin, whatever crop that is, which is sold in Caesarea, they're forbidden also without unless you take on meisters. The nation Ruben boy Har-Melech, because both of them come from Har-Melech, and Har-Melech didn't take off properly. Rabbi Chia bar Rabba Bilavnin Amar. Sorry, Rabbi Chia bar Rabba Amar Bilavnin. Sorry, Chia bar Rabba Amar Bilavanin. It's got to be white kulkasin we're talking about here, because they mostly come from Har-Melech. Rabban the Kesar, Rabban says Amri Badumim. The red kulkasim mostly come from Har-Melech. Rabbi Zia, Rabbi Chivia, period. Rabbi Zia and Rabbi Chia both have Shem Rabbi Yochanan. This case which appears in the Bavli in Chulun Dav Zayin. Rabbi Tir Beit Shan. Rabbi was Matir Beit Shan and said anything in Beit Shan is not susceptible to Shemitah. Again, it was only conquered by whom? Mitzrayim, not only Bavel. Besides that, so it says Gemara, Rabbi Chia V'Shem Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Iter is Beit Shan. Why is that? How do you know it's from Chutz La'aretz? B'nei Yoshua ben Zoris, because Yoshua Mipi, because of that which you heard from the mouth of Yoshua ben Zoris, Ben Chavish Meir, the son-in-law of Rabbi Meir. What did Rabbi Shimon ben Zoris say? Shlomo said, "Ani lo'isi." I saw as Rabbi Meir lokech yerek min hagino b'shvi'is. I saw Rabbi Meir eating vegetables in a vegetable garden in Shemitah and Beit Shan. V'hitir es kulan. As a result, Rabbi was matir all of Beit Shan. Okay. On Rabbi Zera said, the fact that Rabbi was willing to rely on this teaches us a person should may not do something in public unless he's absolutely sure about it. For a mayor did, he must have been absolutely sure about it. And the Omer, because otherwise it would have said, if a person did something in public without actually being sure of it, and the Omer would have said, he knew some special reason that he was matir Rameir knew some special reason to be matir Hagino. But now we see that we are matir the whole thing because we say that even if Rameir knows some special reason, then he would do it in private, not in public. Okay? Rabbi Yitir Beishan, Rabbi Mazmati Beishan, Rabbi Yitir Kesar, Rabbi said Kesari. Caesarea is also not susceptible to Shemitah. Rabbi Yitir Beis Kuvrin said the same thing about Beis Kuvrin. Rabbi Yitir Kvartzemach, Rabbi Yitir, and Rabbi also is Matir Likach Yerk Motzei Shvis. He's saying you can take vegetables, buy vegetables right away Motzei Shvis. And we mentioned the previous Masech to pay. The reason is Matir is because it said vegetables in Eretz Yisrael grow very fast. These are not tzvichim. They didn't grow during Shemitah, and they grew right away in Motzei Shemitah. Well, needless to say, the parashas of Vinyane Diyoima are parashas of Shavua. Everybody made a mockery of him. So he said, Bovnei Dain. other words, they call him Mako, right? They're going around making fun of Rebbe, right? It's an old story, right? So, Louis said that Bovini dying. Let's discuss. Let's debate the matter. See if it says Yoshio, the king, destroyed the copper snake, which is in our parsha, which Moshe makes in our parsha, right? The Chiloah Matzadik mi Moshe al Chizkiyahu. It's Chizkiyahu, not Yoshio. Sorry. The Chiloah Matzadik mi Moshe al Chizkiyahu is no righteous person from Moshe until Chizkiyahu. La'aviru, to cast away this snake. They were worshiping it, right? Not just the doctors were worshiping it. Even the common people were worshiping it, right? So, Ella. Who made that the symbol of medicine, by the way?
Why did she need a guy?
Is that because of the first Jewish?
Yeah, it's because of the Chana.
And it's called the Kedushas. It's probably the first Jewish doctor.
I know the symbol, but I never associate with the Hashem.
Sure.
Then it's no longer happening.
Yeah. So, it's the first recorded episode of healing, I think. I mean, you had Moshe with the tzara sticking his hand or whatever, but...
So the Kash of the Gemara really is, what makes Yoshio so free?
Chizkiyahu. Right. Ella. Elsa Atori Nirlo Kodesh Baruch Hu Lisater Ba. Hashem left him that crown with it to crown himself. There's a certain hashkoche, certain schusim are left for later generations. And that was his schus. And Hashem left us this chus to be mater beishan. That's my personal chus. Shimon Levi was a machmir. He didn't trust Rebbe on this. Right? This is Rebbe's. Rebbe didn't trust him on it. So he told us he sold his boy, his nar, lo tizbin li yerek elamin gintzah de Sisra. Even when you're in Beit Shan and during Shemitah, only buy me stuff from Sisra's garden. Now, at least to say Sisra was not Jewish, right? Sisra, I mean, that could be Jewish, right? It's like Christopher. So he said, only buy me stuff from Sisra's garden. Don't buy me anything from a regular place, because I don't trust Rebbe's heter Beit Shan. You know, don't trust him. Says Gemara, Chami mea zochel tov. So there stood the Zil Amar l'Rabba, go tell your Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Leisa Doginsa de Sisra, this garden doesn't belong to Sisra anyway. The Udoy Avis, it belongs to Jews. The Kotlu, Sisra's forefathers killed the Jews who lived there, the Nasmi Minei, and they took it away from the Jews. Therefore, your Chumrah doesn't do any good, because this garden is a Jewish garden. Sisra doesn't belong to Sisra; it belongs to his predecessors who are Jewish, and therefore, if you have this crazy chumrah with your machmir and yourself, not to rely on Rabbi Meir on Rebbe's heter Beit Shan, at least ishtari lechavroch. Tell, don't impose this chumrah on your friends. It's a big Musar Haskell here, right? Yeah, personal chumrah. First of all, Rabbi Yonavi says the chumrah is not a good chumrah, because this ground, you can't be kind of chumrah with this plot. Besides that, you machmir for yourself, don't be machmir for them. Okay? Rabbi Yossi the Kfar Don said b'shem Rabbi Ben Ma'adio, said name Rabbi Ben Ma'adio, Hamidim Asurim in Beit Shan. Even in Beit Shan, there's certain things which are imported from Israel, and therefore they're forbidden. You have to assume they're Shemitah or the Chayv and Meiser Sheni, whatever the game Meiser. Haketzach, this is poppy seeds, Vasumsum, sesame seeds, Vachayda, mustard, Vashum, Shum is garlic, Vakukasin, whatever kukasin are, Hafuni Rishchaim, black peas, Ubetzoim Anim Karim, and onion which is sold. Uvenei Avdin on Yukarim and Bnei Avdin, which is another type of vegetable, Yukarim Mida, which is sold by weight. Upul Anega B'Shifa and the legumes which are wrapped in shifa, whatever shifa is, I forgot. Some sort of material, I don't remember exactly. And minza negev neatzma, minza another vegetable which is independently bundled. Istapni l'olam, and always istapni l'ol chayiv in Demai and in Shemitah, even though they're in Beit Shan. The kaflutos. This is true also about kaflutos, a type of turnip, min atzeres ad Chanukah, from Shavuos till Chanukah. Says more Rabbi Zira, min atzeres ad Chanukah is served for Rabbi Leheter. From atzeres, from Shavuos till Chanukah, there's more issa than heter. Min Chanukah but atzeres, from Chanukah till Shavuos, heter Rabbi Leisser. There's more heter than there is isser. Ulinyon, that's in terms of Meiser, in terms of Shemitah. However, in terms of Shemitah specifically, in terms of stuff which grows wild in the field, may Rosh Hashanah from Rosh Hashanah ad Chanukah of the 8th year, Asr, because it took root in the 7th year. You're not allowed to use it. Asr Svichen, it's forbidden. Min Chanukah atzeres, from Chanukah until Shavuos. Now here there's a change in the Gemara's Girsir from the Gra. Tzricha. We don't know. Tzricha, remember, says the Yerushalmi's word, which is a synonym for tekel. Right. Here means we don't know. We don't have an answer. However, min atzeres Rosh Hashanah from Shavuos Rosh Hashanah of the 9th year, on that heter Svichen, I know for sure that stuff grew in the 8th year. Okay? So that's okay. Says what hakishuin, it's a type of squash. Vaduin, type of gourd. Vavatichim, type of melon. Vafonos, type of cucumber. Vayayin, wine. Shemen, oil. Tzmorim, dates. Apasios, certain type of dates. V'yeshom, some say apatamusi, certain types of legume. Upas, challah, another type of product. Hare elu v'shvi'is. They're considered to be during Shemitah to be Shemitah stuff. What? They come from Eretz Yisrael, because they come from Eretz Yisrael. B'shar shnei Shavua. What about the rest of the 6 years? Ma, what's the Rabbi Yonah Mar Demai? Rabbi Yonah says they're all Demai. Rabbi Yosef Mar Vadai. Rabbi Yosef says they're definitely not tight. The low plika. There's no machlokas here. Mar Rabbi Yonah Mar Demai blokech mina balkanim. That's when you buy it from a merchant, because maybe he bought it from somebody who did take some mitzvahs off. Rabbi Yosef Mar Vadai, that was just because it's Rabbi Vadai. It's okay when you buy it from somebody's backyard, and you're pretty reasonably certain that you didn't take off any trumas and mitzvahs. Period. Ad heichen parshasa. What blood are we on, by the way? Are we in Testament off yet? Not quite. Okay. I'm going to try and get to the next Mishnah, if you don't mind. You want to get to the next Mishnah? Yeah. Okay. It's 9 o'clock, but do you mind staying take another 10 minutes? Ad heichen. To where is Beit Shan? What's its geographical boundaries? Parshasa, Veritzbasa, Venafsha, the Pnute, at Kfar Kinaim, until Kfar Kinaim. Kfar Kinaim, Beit Shan, but Kfar Kinaim itself is also like Beit Shan. Rabbi Shimon Tzchaya said, Haminim Asurim B'Panye, what stuff in Panye is considered a made customary to Yisrael? Ha'gozim, nuts, v'orez, rice, shum shemin, sesame, pula, mitzri, kamlil, zuga, amar, ayino abuchoros. Ayinios abuchoros, this type of first fruit of ayinios, is also considered customary to Yisrael. On Rabbi Yana, I said, harder than that what she said, only certain types are from Eretz Yisrael, but the rest of them are okay. Harder than Tani Golgi Sorin Lamal. That's above Tani Golgi Sorin. I will be Tani Golgi Sorin Lamata, but below Tani Golgi Sorin, Eretz Yisrael, it's like Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Yonah boy. Rabbi Yonah has a shiloh. So they Zura Yerek. He tries to point out a tenable situation. But you know what we're going to say to him? Tough. That's the following case. Rabbi Yonah boy. You had a field of chutzlaretz, planted vegetables. The vegetables you have to take off the mine chutzlaretz. No. Uva mitzvah ores. And now he came and found that there's rice in there. And rice, even in Chutzah, you take of Trumas Mice because it's adjacent to Eretz Yisrael, and the crop might have come from Eretz Yisrael. Okay? Yes? No? Maybe? It does. It's one of the things mentioned in Mishnah. So in that case, Yerek Mutav Orez Aser. You're going to say the Yerek is permissible even without any Demai. And the rice is also, it's in the same field. How can you distinguish between the two? What about Orez Milamal? You have rice on high. The Yerek Milamaton. The Yerek Mutar Orez also. Again, you're going to say that the vegetables are Mutar and the Yerek is, the Orez is also? Says the Gemara, Avarov Sodos, Osos, Aros Sodos, Halolu. Now here the Grot changes the gears again. Einosus, I mean, Halelu. Says, you know what? You're right. It's paradoxical, but that's life. Even though the rice should be mutter because it grows in the same field as the vegetables which are mutter, that's part of the Gzeira. Too bad. You got to take the Maya off the rice as well. Hi, you know and I know that it's chutzlar, it's produce. Similar to what grows in Eretz Yisrael. Don't let you get away with it. Okay? Says the Gemara, Vafilu Teimar, and you're going to say, Rav Asadas Halolu Osos, Minim Halolu. In other words, many fields in this locality are making rice, and therefore, because let's say it's mistam of chutzlar, nonetheless, they primarily come from place where it is a problem, and therefore we say that you have to take off. Well, most of them come from Eretz Yisrael, place which is a problem, and therefore you have to take off the Mai even chutzlar. Time we learned to Orisha B'cholas Antiochia. The rice in Cholas Antiochia, Mutar Rikomo is permissible in its place. Why? Because there was plentiful rice, which all grew Chutz La'aretz, so we're not cautious that rice from Eretz Yisrael will ever come there. So there you don't have to take off the Maya and your rice in Chutz La'aretz. Rabbi Elazar B'Shem Rabbi Yossi Hiter Aburin, it says permissible up to Burin. Rabbi Yonah boy, Rabbi Yonah asks, Burin is in one direction. Is a Kimidas L'Charuach. What? You're not a doctor, are you?
No, but I have a clientele that requires
pages. Drug dealers. So he asks him, when it says Buran, it's the same to in all directions. In other words, Chulas Antiochia. You're allowed to eat the rice from there without taking off the Mai, because so much local rice, you don't assume any comes from Eretz Yisrael. Burin is over here. This whole area was permitted. You didn't have to take over the Mai of rice. Ask more, can I draw an imaginary circle with this as the radius? And saying mutzmutzah in all directions, the same distance as Burin is. You see the question? In Chulas Antiochia, you could take you didn't have to take the Mai off of rice because there's plentiful rice, so no rice can from Eretz Yisrael. And it said you don't have to take off the Mai anywhere between Chulas Antiochia and Burin. Can you draw a circle describing this radius around it and then saying all there you don't have to take off Trumas and Meisers to mine? Says the Gemara, no answer. There's no answer given. One thing I wanted to point out is that an interesting thing, although very, very much on a tangent, is that in Isser of Chodesh, we have a similar concept. We say, even the Aruch HaShulchan says, even if Chazal Asur Chodesh, they only Asur Chodesh in the immediate environs of Eretz Yisrael, because you might get mixed up with Eretz Yisrael. They didn't Asur, their intent to Asur Chodesh in Russia. I think the same thing is true here about the Mai. Even if we say Chazal Asur the Mai in the immediate vicinity of Eretz Yisrael, they didn't Asur it in New York or Chicago. That they didn't do. What? See, the ironic thing is that The Aruch HaShulchan is a family member too, so it should count.
That's why Rabbi Aaron would quote him occasionally.
Okay.
He'd quote him on the issue of Chodesh.
No, Yishu Chodesh. The Aruch HaShulchan here says is one can be makel on the Chodesh. It's interesting because the Briskers, once you brought out, the Briskers always say that the Psak is based on the Bach, Psak that is based on the Bach, and the Brisker Rav had a Shverkeit on the Bach. Well, the Bach is Shver, as we used to say in Chavetz Chaim, Shver like the Rebbe. There's no way to understand. No pun intended. By the way, be that as it may, let's go on. Some very choppy tape tonight, sir. A lot of censorship going on here today. In any event, so the same thing. Chodesh, they're matir because they say that the Bach was matir, but the Brisker had a kasha on the Bach. The Bach is certainly shver. The Bach makes stuff up in being matir Chodesh. But the Aruch HaShulchan said there's nothing to do with being matir Chodesh, and it's a very nice and glad answer. Okay, says more further. So don't let the Briskers, don't let them impress you too much on that. I'm sure none of us keep Chodesh anyway. Elu Ayhorz B'tchum Tzor. These are the cities which are in the area of Tzor, and of course Tyre is exempt from Truma from Demai. Shatza Subatza Supim Mitzuva Alaisa V'Chanvosa Tachtia Ubeis Karyo V'Rosh Menah Uvamonu Mazi. Over Rabbi Mona, that was to begin with. But besides that, now Yesusisa Einish Vein Tara V'Ram Berin V'Iyun V'Yarut V'Kvar V'Choruv V'Nov V'Akfia V'Kvar Tzemach. And they're all the areas of Tzor. They're not part of Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Yiter Kvar Tzemach. Rabbi already said Kfar Tzemach is not part of Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Ami asked, how do you say not part of Eretz Yisrael? Lomi Malim Yisrael, don't they pay taxes to the Israeli authorities? So they must be Israeli, right? Rabbi Ami, Mimali Misa Commissioner Scott. Some Rabbi Ami held Mimali Misa, those who pay taxes, Commissioner Scott, as if they're conquered. Anybody pays taxes to a government as if it's conquered by that government. Okay, must be some Musar Haskell there, but I'm not sure what it is. Elay Arshay Mutaras B'tchum Tzar. These are cities which are Mutar, which are in the area of Tzar. Naki Tzar V'Tzayir V'Nashmayu V'Zizin V'Yandei Chamas V'Tovav Charvarte V'Charkora Devar Charzrak Chatoin T'Tzumai T'Tzumukin. Certain individual came, have one. We still go over the mission another 5 minutes. Somebody carrying a pile. Somebody brought a pile of raisins. All Tveria came to Tveria with it. Tveria, of course, is in Eretz Yisrael. Shal Gamliel Zugal Rebbe Boa Barkani Asrei Boa Barkana. Is this mine? Amar Lo, he said, no, it's not mine. You know why? Ain't called Eretz Yisrael Ose Masu Yechot Shel Tzimukin. Eretz Yisrael. There are no raisins in Eretz Yisrael. I don't know why not. I guess they have a raisin industry in Eretz Yisrael. So there are plenty of grapes and no raisins. They'll go to make caramel wine. Right? So there are no raisins in Eretz Yisrael. So since there are no raisins, things must come from Chutz La'aretz. If they come from Chutz La'aretz, they're exempt from Demai. Right? Says the Gemara, Ve'enkel Eretz Yisrael Sem Masu Yechot Shel Tzimukin. Is that true that all of Eretz Yisrael doesn't make one load of raisins? No, this is the way it said to him. There's no one place in Eretz Yisrael which makes one load of raisins. But you have to amass from many places, raisin a bunch here, a bunch there, in order to make one caravan load of raisins. So therefore, we don't assume that that's what he did in order to amass this whole caravan of raisins. Therefore, by definition, we assume that where do the raisins actually come from? Chutz La'aretz, and therefore they're exempt from the mine. Chad Barnash is an individual. I say Chad Ashpoli brought one basket to Kaflutin of turnips. Rabitza Bartavli. Shor Rabbi Yochanan Zavin's my Omer Lay said. So Rabbi Yochanan said, Puk Shal. Go ask Hanani ben Shmuel. So tonight I taught him this halacha. Nafik v'Shor Lay went and asked him the question. Omer Lay said, Mas nice lo yachmi lay. He never showed me a brisa. Rabbi Yochanan never showed me a brisa on this topic. Shmuel Amarli, he told me over in the name of an Amora what the halach is. Tom Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yasa, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Yasa named Rabbi Yochanan. He's speaking Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon out of machlokas. What's machlokas? Chad Omar, one of them said Achar Makomo. In trying to determine whether this is Demai or Vadai or exempt, we go after the place where he's from, the merchant. Whether it's in Eretz Yisrael, Chutz La'aretz, etc. Choror Amar Achar Ma'amor. The other one said we go after where he passed through, literally where he stood on the way here. Rabbi Avo Amar. Rabbi Amar Achar Makomer. Rabbi said normally follow the place where he's from. For Hori Leikad, the Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon. However, he wants paskin. Rabbi Amar Achar Makomer. However, Hori Le, Rabbi Yochanan wants paskin. Sorry, called the Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon. Achar Mamor, that we follow the place where he came from. Hard at the Tema Bilin Shpalta. That's talking about this basket, this case which we're talking about. However, a single basket, I should say. Not just specifically this case, but any case of a single basket. But where it's a professional, bearer. In other words, he's bearing a whole bunch of it's a caravan bearing a whole bunch of buckets of the fruits. In that case, we always go after the place where he came from, because we assume if he just brought one bucket, so he brought it from wherever he last was. But if he's bringing a whole caravan, he's bringing it from his actual place. Let's say the place where he was from is mutter, and a place where he stood on the way is also mutter. However, I think I might have made a mistake. I think Ma'amora might not be the place where he stayed on the way, but rather the place where he is now. Because look at this line here. Place where he was, place where he's standing is heter. But there's a place along the way where he could have gone through somewhere usher. We don't look at the isser through which he passed it. We don't take that into account. So I guess Mamodo is not the place where he went, because that would be like the Mokom Isser where he went through. Rather, Mamodo is where he is now. So if it's a single basket, we look at where he is now. If it's a caravan, we look at where it came from. And we never take into account where he passed through. Because we assume he either picked the stuff up here locally, or he picked it up way back when in his own city.
So what's Makomo Mamodo?
Makomo is where he's from. Mamodo is where he is now. And Avir Derech Isser is where he stopped along the way. So it's Machlokas where you look at Mamodo or Makomo or Mamodo. Where he's from, where he is now. No, where he originated his trip. Where it says he comes from. Okay? Rabbi Yossi. He asked if Rabbi Yossi located Rabbi Chia b'Shem Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Chaver Locha Karebi. Rabbi and his friends, if Rabbi has a list of friends, it looks like Rabbi. From Rabbi Yon, Rabbi said it's true. But I feel Rabbi hates Rabbi Loza, Rabbi Shimon. It's true, even Rabbi is arguing Rabbi Shimon. So if that's the case, how here the Rabbi Yochanan paskin like Rabbi Lekula that we go after? How paskin like Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon? Here paskin like Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon, who said that Achar Mamodo. So Tveria must be like Chutz La'aretz. Oh, this is not Tveria. This is a different case. Sorry. That was the last case in Tveria. This is the place of Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Tavli. Okay, so Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Tavli's place, he brings down here this type of son. He says Yitzchak Bar Tavli's place is taka exempt from Shemitah. He says talking about here because the place where only Mitzrayim came and not only Bavel. So that's we asked Rabbi Yochanan, what do I go by? Do I go to the place where he came from, where Makoma was Osir B'Shmita, or do I go to the place where I am, my mother, which is Mutter B'Shmita? And Rabbi Yochanan paskin for Rabbi Yitzchak, like Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, L'Kula, that we go after where you are, which is exempt, and not after where he came from, which is Chayev. Because it's only a single bucket, not a back caravan of buckets, so we go after local and not after the distance. So now the Gemara asks, how can you possibly like Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon over Rebbe? So says Gemara, I'll tell you. Says Gemara, Mad boy, Rabbi Yochanan. Yeah, what do you ask for Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan daite to Rabbi Yochanan. Daite. Rabbi Yochanan like it holds, well, it's consistent with his own opinion. Rabbi Yochanan says, Kal shekilu b'shvius, shemidi vrayim. So Shemitah B'zman says to Rabbanon, so Chazal were makel, and they were makel even like Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, to say when you can go after the locality, and that's exempt from Shemitah, you can exempt the fruit from Shemitah. Okay? That's one interpretation. Easter boy Mamer, some said, another interpretation, this is mind-boggling. This is our bang with which to end tonight. Nitztarfa daitosh Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, v'yirbu al Rebbe. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon argues on Rebbe. Rebbe says you go after the place where he's from. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon says you go on the place where he is now. Rabbi Yochanan holds you go by the place where he is now. So it's 2 against 1. We pass like Rebbe over one of his friends, but not over 2 of his friends. So therefore, it's Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Yochanan on one side, and Rebbe's on the other side. We pass like Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon. What's difficult about this? Rebbe's the Tana and Rabbi Yochanan is the Namora. That's what you meant to say? So how can you make it 2 against 1? How can you make it 2 against 1? So there's a raya, there's a traces, I forget where this traces is. I remember seeing it when it brought down the Yad Malachi. So Shail for Rabbi Yochanan is a Tanu Poli, like Rav. The Bavli never argues on Tanoim. Never. But here you see clearly that the Yerushalmi is giving Rabbi Yochanan, since he was a member of that the transition generation, Rav, Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan, Levi, a bunch of these, Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Yeshua, all members of the transition generation. So here you see the Yerushalmi is giving him the status of a Tana. And therefore, it's 2 against 1. They win the argument. We will stop here for tonight.